with Sony recently acknowledging that they hear the fans in regards to the demands for more of the Amazing Spider-Man and the return of Andrew Garfield, I think right now, more so than ever before, more so than right after the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, if the fans unite and we state what we want respectfully and we make our voices heard, I think it can happen. I think we can legit get Andrew Garfield back for more films. So let's go over how us, the fans, can make this happen. So first and foremost, before people say Sony won't listen, it won't happen, something like that, let's take a step back. Let's go back to the past, where they reacted to The Amazing Spider-Man 1 being too dark, going in a different direction, the suit and all that, and they fixed it for TASM 2. Unfortunately, they decided to blunder that up by really jumping the shark and changing way too much, way too fast, focusing on trying to build a world without focusing on the core aspects of the film, which should have been the main focus, aka the character development and the main character. That's where they dropped the ball. The cast was good. All the actors were doing their best with what they were given. Unfortunately, what they were given was terrible material. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 made money. It didn't make much of a profit, but it made money. But again, fans being vocal and saying we don't want more, get us a better version of Spider-Man and connect it to the MCU, give us better directors, give us people that care about this, they listened. We can do it again. How do we do it again? Well, we do it the same way that we made it possible with Spider-Man coming to the MCU. We talk about it. We talk about the aspects we loved of The Amazing Spider-Man. And we don't say, well, just give us anything. You don't say that. Because if that's the case, they just go back to the drawing board and say, here's the same thing you could have got before, screw it, you'll show up anyway. We don't want that. That's why many people have problems with Venom, and Venom 2, and Morbius, because it seems to be going back to basics. Just Sony doing the Sony thing without much effort and caring. They're just focused on the next big thing, trying to tease a giant crossover. Again, they're making the same mistakes. We as fans have to be vocal, respectfully vocal, about what we want. We want Andrew Garfield back. Yes. We want a possible TASM 3. Yes. But we don't want them to just toss Andrew Garfield into Venom 3. That doesn't make sense. Just like when Sony was going to toss Tom Holland's Spider-Man into Venom 2, after the dispute with Marvel Studios and Disney. That would have come out of nowhere. It wouldn't have worked. The film would have been worse. It would have ruined everything Tom Holland's Spider-Man had to do, and it would have brought everything into question. We never would have gotten No Way Home. Again, we were very vocal. We don't want Spider-Man to go back to Sony because we know they're going to ruin him. And as it turned out, that's exactly what they were going to do. But once the negotiations took place again, they were able to work out a new deal. So again, we have to stress to Sony that we want to see Andrew Garfield come back. But we want them to respect the character and how he's handled the same way that they handle Marvel Studios Spider-Man and not go back to their old ways. Because we don't want The Amazing Spider-Man 3 to just be another repeat of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is exactly what they were setting up, because that film was supposed to set up the Aunt May spin-off, the Sinister Six spin-off, and tie into that, the Venom spin-off, and multiple other things that they announced, and directly tie into TASM 4, which they announced before even starting production, or even wrapping production on 2. We don't want the same thing. So again, if you're respectfully vocal, they will hear it. And again, they confirmed with their social media, we hear you. They hear you. That's why they authorized that post. They know what the fans want. But again, we can't let Sony think that just putting Andrew Garfield into another terrible Spider-Man film out of nowhere makes it suddenly good. Like, would people have legit thought Morbius is some sort of grand masterpiece if during the reshoots, as it was rumored to be, they just kind of threw Spider-Man in there in the third act and the two fight each other. No, that would have honestly ruined the chances of Andrew Garfield returning for a full-on feature, and it would have also, well, somehow made Morbius even worse to more people. So again, you have to approach this carefully. Best case scenario, Sony continues to work with Marvel Studios and they say, hey guys, let's work together and make TASM 3. That would be great. And that way we can get different versions of Spider-Man. But again, they're going to have to be careful. They can't just rush it. They can't just pull the trigger on it and go, well, now we're doing it. It's going to come out in 2 years because we have to. You can't do it like that. You can't just toss Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man into Kraven the Hunter or something like that. They have to treat it like it was always intentional. So what I think we should do as fans is the same thing that we did with Daredevil, the same thing we did with the MCU Spider-Man, how it came to be. We're just going to talk about it. We're going to support Andrew Garfield. We're going to support all the actors from the previous franchise. We're going to talk about how we would like them to bring it back. We talk about what we think they should have done different in terms of how they approached that franchise. You know, originally, they approached it with the untold story. Well, what was this untold story? Oh, you guys got cold feet before the release of TASM 1 and scrapped a bunch of it. And then TASM 2, you completely scrapped even more of it and just shifted and pivoted position. So all the setup that you were doing wasn't even there. You just literally kind of negated it. It was kind of pointless, and that was a major plot hole. Commit to something, even if you think people might hate it. Don't just cut it out. At least commit to it fully and see it through. So TASM 3 would have to be some sort of softish reboot, or at least something that takes place after, far after TASM 2, probably after Spider-Man No Way Home, where we get to the character where he's at now, and we pick up that plot, and we pick up from there, and we go on and we live with that character and see how his world has evolved. He doesn't have to fight 3 or 4 villains. He can fight 1 villain. Then at the end of that film, you tease that maybe, just maybe, something happened over in San Francisco that has to deal with something like a symbiote or something, and you line that up to work with it. But you don't just toss Venom in there for the sake of we want him in TASM 3. You have to let it breathe. You have to welcome Andrew back. You have to welcome back a character we haven't seen for a while. You have to have us spend time with the character, live with him in this new world, and how does he perceive the universe now that he knows that the multiverse exists, right? Do you guys get what I'm saying? We have to tell Sony that that's what we want. We don't want him to get dropped right back into TASM 3 and suddenly he's fighting Oscorp bootleg, Vulture, Oscorp bootleg Venom, Oscorp bootleg whatever, because that's what they teased at the end, which nobody wanted. Everybody just made by Oscorp, right? Put him back in there. Have him fight who knows who. Maybe a variant of the Vulture. We see how Sony's universe would have handled it differently. Maybe we do something a little bit more unique. Focus on a villain we haven't really seen. Make him the central focus. And then tease the next chapter, which is that crossover we want. And again, I think we can make this happen by letting Sony know we want it to happen. So let's do that. Respectfully, when they post things that feature Andrew Garfield, in the comments, let them know we want it. Now, when they post something like, oh, tragically, this actor who was in Spider-Man passed away X years ago, don't spam it with bring back Andrew Garfield. Do not pull what the Snyder Cut did. Do not disrespect actors and people's legacies by spamming everything with bring back Andrew Garfield and TASM 3. The only thing that shows is childishness and toxicity. And that's what we don't want. We want to avoid that at all costs. So be respectful, be vocal when you need to be, and talk about how much you love Spider-Man and how much you support Andrew Garfield, because that will get the message across.